Have you ever wondered why the harder we try to hold on to a child, a piece of property, or even our own health, the further everything seems to slip away? We spend our entire lives accumulating and building sturdy walls of protection, only to realize we aren't the masters but prisoners of what we own. The truth is, your heart isn't heavy because of what you have. It's heavy because of how tightly you're clinging to it. Welcome back to Buddha Essence Wisdom. If this message touches your heart, please subscribe to join our community of 60+ souls seeking peace. Your support is the precious motivation for me to continue spreading these messages of peace to the world. Hello everyone, I'm a Zen master who has spent over half my life observing the flow of the mind here in the United States. Today, let's sit down together, pour a warm cup of tea, and talk about a concept that I believe, if understood, will lighten the burden on your shoulders by half. That is the paradox of detachment. Many of us, especially as we enter our 50s or 60s, often misunderstand detachment as being cold, abandoning loved ones, or no longer caring about the world. But no, in profound Buddhist philosophy, detachment is not about not loving. On the contrary, it is the highest form of love, loving without possessing. Have you ever felt this way when you over-worry about your children's careers? You call every day, you give imposing advice, and then the relationship between generations becomes strained. You love them, yes, but that love is being smothered by attachment. You are clinging to the outcome that my child must succeed my way. I want you to imagine this. Think of a kite flying in a deep blue, windy sky. What helps that kite fly highest and most proudly? When you grip the string tightly to your chest, pulling it down close to the ground. The kite only truly takes wing when you know how to loosen the string, letting it follow the wind, leaning on the atmosphere to rise. If you hold too tight, the string will break or the kite will crash. Our lives are exactly like that. In modern psychology, this is called secondary control. When we reduce our efforts to change the outside world and start changing how we react to it, we truly gain power. When you stop clinging to outcomes, whether it's a business project, an illness being treated, or a life partner, you are no longer controlled by them. At that point, you are no longer a victim of circumstance. You become a wise observer. I have a friend in Florida named Robert. He spent his whole life building a chain of stores and expected his son to take over. When the son chose to follow an artistic path, Robert collapsed. He felt like he had lost everything. But during a meditation session, he realized that his suffering didn't come from his son's actions, but from the outcome he had been clinging to. The day Robert truly said to his son, "I love you and I accept all your choices," was the day he felt most free. And strangely enough, after letting go of the imposition, their relationship became closer than ever. That is the paradox. When you let go, you gain everything. Science has also proven that when our brains are in a state of clinging, levels of the stress hormone cortisol rise, narrowing our vision and reducing our ability to make clear decisions. But when we practice detachment, the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, the mind expands, and we often find solutions we never saw before. So my friends, learn to be a smart kite string master. Work hard, love with all your heart, but let the results drift away like clouds in the sky. Don't turn your heart into a hook to hang all your worries on. When you stop clinging, you will find yourself so strong that nothing can hurt you anymore. But I know talking about detachment is easy. Practicing it is an arduous internal battle, because deep down we fear that if we don't control things, everything will collapse. So how do we face that fear? How do we keep our minds from rippling when things don't go our way? Join me in the next chapter where we will explore another secret of stillness. You are not what you think. Have you ever noticed that your mind is like a restless house guest who refuses to leave? It paces back and forth, replaying a conversation from 10 years ago, or rehearsing a worry for next week. Sometimes the noise is so loud that you feel exhausted before the day has even begun. You might think, why am I so negative? Or why can't I stop worrying? But here is the secret that will change your life, that voice in your head. It isn't you. You are not the noise. You are the one listening to it. In the tradition of Buddhism, we often speak of the monkey mind. Just like a monkey swings from branch to branch, never staying still, our thoughts jump from one fear to another. But the mistake we make, especially as we get older and have more history to ruminate on, is that we identify with the monkey. We think we are the fear. We think we are the regret. Today I want to invite you to realize a deeper truth. You are not your thoughts. I want you to imagine this. You are standing in the middle of a vast open field, and above you is the infinite sky. Occasionally, dark storm clouds roll in. Sometimes there are light, fluffy clouds or even a heavy fog. But does the sky become the storm? No. The sky simply holds the space for the weather to pass. The sky is always there, still blue and untouched behind the clouds. Your awareness is that sky. Your thoughts are just the weather. Have you ever felt like a prisoner to your own mind? Perhaps you're lying in bed at 2 a.m. and your brain is listing everything you should have done differently in your career or with your family. I want you to try something next time this happens. Instead of fighting the thought, simply label it. Say to yourself, there is a thought about the past, or there is a feeling of anxiety. By doing this, you create a small gap, a tiny breath of space between who you are and what you are thinking. I once sat with a man in Seattle who was carrying immense guilt over his relationship with his late father. He told me, "I'm a failure." I looked at him and said, "No, you are a man having a thought that you are a failure." There is a world of difference between the two. Science shows us that our brains are wired to prioritize negative thoughts as a survival mechanism. It's an old program designed to keep us safe from predators. But in our modern life, this program just creates unnecessary suffering. When you stop obeying every thought that pops into your head, you take your power back. You realize that you don't have to follow the monkey into the trees. You can stay on the ground, breathing present and whole. You are the observer, the silent witness to the drama of the mind. So as you go about your day, ask yourself, am I the thinker or am I the awareness behind the thought? If you can find that space, you will find a peace that no storm can disturb. You will realize that you are already okay exactly as you are, regardless of what the weather says. But even when we understand that we are not our thoughts, we often find ourselves exhausted by a different kind of burden. It's the weight of trying to be the fixer for everyone else. We think we are being helpful, but we are actually crushing our own peace. How do we let go of this heavy responsibility? Let us move to the next part and discover why. Letting go of the need to fix everything is your ultimate act of compassion. Have you ever noticed that your mind is like a restless house guest who refuses to leave? It paces back and forth, replaying a conversation from 10 years ago or rehearsing a worry for next week. Sometimes the noise is so loud that you feel exhausted before the day has even begun. You might think, why am I so negative? Or why can't I stop worrying? But here is the secret that will change your life, that voice in your head. It isn't you. You are not the noise, you are the one listening to it. Welcome back to Buddha Essence Wisdom. If this message touches your heart, please subscribe to join our community of 60+ souls seeking peace. Your support allows us to continue sharing these moments of reflection and clarity. In my years of teaching, I've met so many people who are tired not from physical labor, but from the constant battle inside their own minds. We believe that if we think about a problem long enough, we can solve it. But more often than not, we just drown in the what-ifs. In Buddhist wisdom, we learn a liberating truth. You are not your thoughts. I want you to imagine this. You are sitting peacefully on a grassy bank beside a wide flowing river. This river represents your mind. The water is moving, and on the surface there are patches of weeds, fallen leaves, and debris floating by. These are your negative thoughts, the regrets, the anxieties, the self-criticism. Now, what is our natural instinct? Usually we want to jump into the cold, rushing water to grab those weeds and pull them out. We try to fight the thoughts, to stop them, or to argue with them. What happens when you jump in? You get wet, you get tired, and you often get swept away by the current. You create more turbulence in the water just by trying to fix it. I want you to try a different way. Just stay on the bank. Observe the river. When a thought like, "I'm not doing enough," or "what if things go wrong," floats by, don't jump in after it. Just look at it and say, "There goes a thought." You don't need to clear the river to enjoy the view. If you just sit still on the bank, the river in its own time will carry those things away. Stillness itself has a way of restoring order. Have you ever felt like your mind was a prison? I remember a man I met in Oregon who was tormented by the should-haves of his parenting years. He spent every waking hour analyzing his mistakes. I told him, "You're trying to dry yourself off while you are still standing in the middle of the river." The moment he realized he could just step out and watch those thoughts without being in them, he found a peace he hadn't felt in decades. Scientific studies on mindfulness show that when we observe our thoughts, instead of identifying with them, we actually change the structure of our brains. We dampen the alarm center of the brain and strengthen the areas responsible for emotional regulation. It isn't just spiritual poetry, it is biological freedom. So my dear friends, the next time your mind starts to race, remember the riverbank. You are the one sitting in the sun watching the water flow. You are the vast, silent awareness that is completely untouched by the debris of thought. Let the weeds float by. Stay on the shore. But as we sit on that shore, we often notice another urge, the urge to jump back in and save everyone else who is struggling in the water. We think it's our job to be the fixer for our children, our friends, and our world. But sometimes our best help is our silence. Let's explore why releasing the need to fix everything is the ultimate gift you can give to yourself and those you love. Have you ever felt a heavy, constant weight in your chest, thinking that if you don't step in, everything around you will fall apart? Many of us, as we reach our 50s and 60s, carry an invisible toolkit everywhere we go. We try to fix our children's marriages, repair their financial mistakes, or even go back in time to mend our own past regrets. We call it love. We call it being a good parent. But in the quiet wisdom of Zen, we often find that this is misplaced kindness. By trying to fix every crack, we might be preventing the very growth that life intended. Next, let's talk about a profound act of liberation, releasing the need to fix. I want you to imagine this. You are walking through a beautiful ancient forest. You see a tree that has grown slightly crooked, or a stone that has been cracked by the frost. Do you rush over with a hammer and glue to fix the tree or the stone? No. You see the beauty in their imperfection. You understand that the crack in the stone and the bend in the tree are stories of their survival. Why then do we find it so hard to look at our loved ones or our own lives with that same graceful acceptance? Have you ever felt that the more you try to save someone, the more they pull away? I remember a father I spoke with in Chicago. He was exhausted because he spent every day trying to manage his adult daughter's life choices. He thought he was being a hero, but he was actually becoming a shadow that darkened her own journey. I told him, "Your daughter doesn't need a mechanic, she needs a father." The greatest gift you can offer isn't a solution, it is your silent presence. Sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do is to sit with someone in their brokenness without trying to glue the pieces back together. In Japan, there is an art called kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with gold. The cracks are not hidden, they are highlighted. They are seen as part of the object's beauty and history. I want you to consider this. What if the mess in your child's life or the mistake in your own past is actually the gold in the making? When we interfere too much, we are essentially saying to the universe, "I don't trust the process." Psychologically, the urge to fix everything often stems from our own anxiety. We fix others so that we can feel better, so that we don't have to feel the discomfort of watching them struggle. But true strength is the ability to hold space for discomfort. It is the wisdom to say, "I see you are struggling and I am right here with you," instead of, "I will do it for you." So take a deep breath. Look at that situation that has been keeping you awake at night. Ask yourself, is this mine to fix or is it theirs to grow from? Release the tools. Put down the glue. Allow life to be a little bit messy, a little bit broken, and watch how much more beautiful it becomes when it's allowed to be real. But once you let go of the need to fix the world, you might face the biggest challenge of all, the unpredictability of life itself. How do we stay steady when the ground beneath us keeps shifting? Let us move to the next part to learn about the power of the whatever mindset. Have you ever noticed how much of our suffering comes from waiting for the perfect conditions to be happy? We tell ourselves, "I'll be at peace once the kids are settled," or "I'll relax once this health scare passes." We are constantly negotiating with life, demanding that it stays still so we can feel secure. But life is not a stagnant pond, it is a wild, unpredictable ocean. If your peace depends on the waves being calm, you will spend your whole life in a state of seasickness. Next, I want to share with you a state of mind that is perhaps the ultimate secret weapon for anyone over the age of 50. I call it the whatever mindset, tu dui, du saudi nua. Now I don't mean whatever in the way a bored teenager might say it, with a roll of the eyes and a heart that doesn't care. No, this is a whatever born from deep grounded wisdom. It is the mindset of a great mountain. I want you to imagine this. Imagine you are a mountain. In the summer, the sun shines on your peaks and tourists praise your beauty. In the winter, fierce storms howl around you and the freezing ice cracks your stones. Does the mountain move? Does it complain when the clouds hide its view, or get arrogant when the sun makes it glow numb? The mountain remains. The weather is just something that happens to the mountain. It is not the mountain itself. Have you ever felt like your peace was a fragile glass ornament that could be broken by one rude comment or one bad piece of news? The whatever mindset is how you turn that glass into stone. It is the ability to look at the chaos of the world, the fluctuating economy, the opinions of neighbors, even the gradual changes in your own physical strength, and say, with a gentle smile, Whatever happens, I remain at peace. I remember a woman I met in Arizona. She had lost a significant portion of her retirement savings in a market crash. Naturally, she was terrified, but after a few weeks of reflection, she told me, "You know, the numbers in the bank changed, but the sunset over the desert is still the same. My ability to love my grandchildren is still the same. Whatever happens with the money, I'm still here." That is spiritual mastery. That is the whatever mindset in action. You see, most people believe that peace is the absence of trouble. But true peace is the presence of an unshakable center in the midst of trouble. Science tells us that our resilience is a muscle. Every time you choose to stay calm when a plan falls apart, you are strengthening that muscle. You are teaching your nervous system that you are safe even when things are not perfect. Ask yourself, how much of your energy have you wasted trying to fight the wind? The wind is going to blow regardless of how much you shout at it. When you adopt this mindset, you aren't being indifferent or lazy. You are being powerful. You are saying, "I will do my best. I will act with integrity, but I will not give my peace away to circumstances I cannot control." It is the freedom of knowing that praise and blame, gain and loss, health and sickness, they are all just weather patterns. They come, they stay for a while, and they go. But you are the mountain. So the next time life throws a curveball, take a deep breath, feel your feet on the ground, smile at the storm, and whisper to yourself, "Whatever happens, happens, I remain." But even for a mountain, there are times when the internal noise becomes deafening. We've talked about external storms, but what about the storm of overthinking? How do we stop the mind from spinning a web of what-ifs? Let's move to the next part and learn why silencing the monkey mind is the shortcut to the clarity you've been seeking. Have you ever felt that if you just thought about a problem one more time from one more angle, you would finally find the answer? We spend our nights tossing and turning, replaying scenarios, convinced that our overthinking is actually problem solving. But let me ask you, has that extra hour of worry ever actually brought you peace? Most of the time we aren't finding a way out, we're just digging the hole deeper. Welcome back to Buddha Essence Wisdom. If this message touches your heart, please subscribe to join our community of 60+ souls seeking peace. Your support is the quiet win that helps us carry these teachings to those who need them most. Next, we address a habit that acts like a thief in the night, stealing our sleep and our joy: the trap of overthinking. In our modern world, we are taught that more is always better. More effort, more analysis, more hustle. But in the spiritual life, the opposite is often true. I want you to imagine this. You have a glass of water, but the water is filled with fine, dark mud. You want to drink that water, but it is too murky. What do? If you follow the logic of the overthinking mind, you might take a spoon and stir the water vigorously, trying to force the mud out. You might shake the glass, hoping the movement will clear it. But what happens? The more you stir, the muddier it gets. The more you think and analyze, the more you disturb the sediment of your mind. The only way to get clear water is to put the glass down. You must let it stand perfectly still. And slowly, without any effort from you, the laws of nature take over. The mud settles to the bottom, and the water becomes crystal clear. Your mind works exactly the same way. Have you ever noticed that your best ideas, those aha moments, never come when you are stressing at your desk? They come when you are in the shower or out for a walk or just as you are about to fall asleep. This is because you finally stopped stirring the glass. You created the stillness necessary for wisdom to rise to the surface. I once worked with a retired professor in Boston. He was brilliant, but he was a professional overthinker. He was so worried about making the perfect decision regarding his estate that he became paralyzed. He told me I just need to think it through one more time. I told him, "Your mind is like a forest fire of thoughts. You cannot see the path because of all the smoke you're creating." We practice sitting in silence for just 10 minutes a day, not thinking, just breathing. Within a week, the answer he had been seeking for months appeared effortlessly. Modern science calls this the default mode network of the brain. When we stop task-oriented overthinking, our brain actually begins to make deeper, more creative connections. By doing nothing, you are actually allowing your brain to do its most important work. So when you feel that mental spiral starting, when the what-ifs begin to scream, I want you to visualize that glass of muddy water. Don't try to solve the thought with another thought. Just put the glass down. Take 3 deep breaths. Allow the mud to settle. Remember, clarity is not something you create. It is something that arises when the noise stops. But even when the mind is quiet, we often feel a lingering anxiety. We feel that we must stay in control or else our future will collapse. Why is it so hard to just trust the journey? Let's move to the next part, to understand why surrender is not a defeat, but your greatest superpower. Have you ever felt completely exhausted, not because you were physically working, but because you were fighting against the reality of your life? We spend so much of our energy resisting what is trying to force people to change, or demanding that the universe meet our specific timeline. We think that if we stop fighting, we are giving up. But what if the very thing you are fighting is actually the path you are meant to walk? Welcome back to Buddha Essence Wisdom. If this message touches your heart, please subscribe to join our community of 60+ souls seeking peace. Your support is what allows us to share these quiet reflections with the world. Next, I want to talk about a concept that is often misunderstood, especially in our culture of never give up. It is the idea that surrender is a superpower. In our world, the word surrender sounds like defeat. It sounds like waving a white flag and losing the war. But in the spiritual life, surrender is not about losing. It is about winning your peace back. I want you to imagine this. You are in a small boat on a powerful ancient river. The current is flowing strongly toward the ocean, but you've decided that you want to go the other way. You grab the oars and you row with all your might. You sweat, your muscles ache, and your heart pounds. You are working hard, but you are barely moving. Surrender is the moment you put the oars down. It is the moment you stop fighting the river and let the current turn your boat around. Suddenly, the effort vanishes. The river, which was your enemy, now becomes your greatest ally. It carries you. It does the work for you. This is what happens when you align yourself with the Great Way, or the Tao. Have you ever noticed that the most beautiful things in your life, your greatest friendships, your unexpected joys often happened when you weren't looking for them, when you weren't trying to control them? I remember a woman I met in Florida who had been struggling for years to fix a broken family situation. She was bitter and tired. One day she simply sat down and said, "I can't change them anymore. I surrender this situation to life." Within months, the tension began to dissolve, not because she solved it, but because she stopped adding the energy of resistance to it. When you stop demanding that life go your way, you finally have the eyes to see that life has already arranged things quite perfectly. you realize that the detour was actually the destination. Science and psychology call this flow state. When we stop over-functioning and trying to micromanage the universe, our stress levels drop and our intuition heightens. We become more effective because we are no longer wasting energy on the impossible task of controlling the uncontrollable. Surrender doesn't mean you become passive or lazy. You still act, you still care, but you act from a place of clarity rather than desperation. You do your part, and then you trust the river to do the rest. So ask yourself today, what am I still rowing against? What would happen if you just put the oars down for 10 minutes? You might find that you aren't sinking, you are finally moving forward. But even when we surrender to the river, there is one final ghost that haunts us. The belief that we actually had our hands on the steering wheel in the first place. Why do we cling to the idea of being in charge? Let's conclude our journey by looking at the greatest trick the mind ever played, the illusion of control. Have you ever noticed how we tend to hold our breath when we are driving through a difficult storm? As if our physical tension could somehow keep the car on the road. We do this with our lives too. We clench our jaws, we micromanage our schedules, and we obsess over every what if regarding our future, believing that our worry is the glue holding the universe together. But let me ask you, if you stopped worrying right now, would the sun fail to rise tomorrow? Welcome back to Buddha Essence Wisdom. If this message touches your heart, please subscribe to join our community of 60+ souls seeking peace. Your support is the foundation that allows these teachings to reach those searching for a quiet place in a chaotic world. Next, we reach the heart of our journey, the illusion of control. In our years of building careers and raising families, we were taught that control is the key to success. But as we reach this beautiful, reflective stage of life, we must face a humbling truth. Control is nothing more than a psychological sedative. It is a pill we take to numb the fear of the unknown. We think that if we plan enough, we can prevent pain. But life has a way of reminding us that it is much bigger than our plans. I want you to imagine this. You are a passenger in a car traveling through a magnificent landscape. For years, you have been leaning over from the passenger seat, white-knuckled, trying to grab the steering wheel from life itself. You are exhausted from the strain. But what if you just sat back? What if you took your hands off the wheel and trusted the driver? I want you to realize that the car of your life has been rolling forward long before you started worrying, and it will continue to roll forward long after you stop. It moves not because of your anxiety, but because of blessings and conditions. Think about the most important turning points in your life: meeting your spouse, finding your true calling, or a sudden moment of grace. Did those happen because you controlled them? Or did they happen because the right conditions met the right moment? When we let go of the steering wheel, we aren't crashing. We are finally allowing the natural flow of our merits and the wisdom of the universe to guide us. I once knew a man in Vermont who was terrified of what would happen to his family after he passed away. He spent his final healthy years trying to control every detail of his children's lives from afar. He was miserable. One afternoon, he looked out at his garden and realized that the oak trees grew, the squirrels fed, and the seasons changed without a single command from him. He finally whispered, "I am not the manager of this world." That was the day he started living. Scientific research into internal versus external locus of control suggests that while taking responsibility is healthy, The obsession with controlling outcomes leads to chronic stress and a weakened immune system. By releasing the illusion of control, you aren't being irresponsible. You are being biologically and spiritually wise. You are letting your nervous system rest. So as we close this session, I invite you to take a long, deep breath. Open your hands. Look at the future not as a monster to be tamed, but as a guest yet to arrive. You have done your part. You have planted the seeds. Now let the rain and the sun do theirs. Trust that you are being carried. Trust that your path is being paved by a wisdom far greater than your worried mind. When you finally let go of the wheel, you will find that the ride is not only smoother, it is beautiful. If today's reflection resonates with you, you're welcome to support the channel by liking, sharing, or subscribing. Each small action you take is a source of energy that helps me continue creating mindful content for the @Buddha Essence Wisdom community.